Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I am Bill McMinn, along with me, Steve Sargent from the Hiawatha Church of God in Christ. And we're talking John, man, because you love the book of John. So I was excited to hear that, actually, because I just felt like, let's do this. But in chapter 2 is the first miracle of Jesus Christ is turning
the water into
wine.
Or Kool-Aid. Was it wine?
Or Kool-Aid. I don't know. It was non-alcoholic wine. So
all you can drink.
Well, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, it's his first miracle. Obviously, they ran out of wine, which would be a disaster, right?
Right.
So they're at a wedding. The third day, there's a wedding at Cana in Galilee when he was there, and the mother of Jesus was there. And Jesus was invited to the wedding with his disciples, so maybe friends of the family, something like that, come on over, or they heard about him. And when the wine ran out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does this have to do with me?"
Do I look like the winemaker?
Exactly. My hour is not yet come. His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Like, she's not even listening to Jesus. What does this have to do with me? Just do whatever he tells you. There were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water," and they filled them up to the brim. And he said, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." And they took it out. And when the master of the feast tasted the water, now become wine, he did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew. The master of the feast called the bridegroom and said, "Hey, everyone serves the good wine first." And the guests had drank freely. Then you bring out the cheap stuff. You don't start with the cheap stuff and bring out the good stuff. Start with the good stuff. And then, all right, what do you think of the story?
That was good because number one, it signifies what concerns you concerns Jesus.
Okay.
Because it wasn't a matter of life or death.
Right.
It wasn't like if he didn't do that, well, somebody's going to die or continue to be in bondage. It was an inconvenience thing.
Right. And
he corrected the inconvenience.
Right. Yeah, I just wonder how many times people come up and ask to do something. We wonder, what does that have to do with me?
Yeah. Daily.
Yeah, daily. And what does this have to do with me? Why are you telling me about this? Yeah, sometimes I've wondered, I even see messages I get. I'm like, what does this have to do with me? Like, why are you sending this to me? Like, I mean, people I don't even know. I mean, I'm not even talking to people I know. Like, Bill, you're mean to your friends. I'm not talking about friends. I'm just talking about people sending me stuff like, why are you sending me this? I'm not sure. What am I supposed to do with it? Yeah, it's kind of funny. But obviously, when it comes to the miraculous aspect of it, which I think is the message, is it was a miracle. And the fact that it was better wine just shows the ability of Christ. Yeah. I think that the point of that was saying, and even the timing of it when they ran out, that, man, why would you serve the best stuff last? He's questioning the bridegroom, right? Why are we serving this at the end of the time?
Right.
We should have been serving this first, not knowing that Jesus Christ just made it out of water. He could take water and make it into wine.
That's crazy.
How many applications can we make from this, Steve? Right,
man, that's awesome. It's absolutely incredible because Jesus hadn't done any miracles on record. Right. Until this point. Right. And of all the miracles he could have done, this is the one.
Right. But obviously Jesus' mother knew what he was capable of. So he had done something prior because she knew.
She went to him like, fix it.
I wonder how many times he took a biscuit and made 100 of them. Like, there's a reason why she comes to him and says, "Hey, they ran out of wine."
Right.
Because she knew he could do something about it. Because she had already seen him do something about it, right? At other times in other situations, maybe it was a little lean, you know what I mean? And Jesus Christ is making more of it.
That's a message in itself. When you're in a situation, why not talk to the person who can do something about it?
Right. Which is God, right? God can always do something about it. And I think the one beautiful thing about Jesus Christ, too, and you think about the feeding of the 5,000, 5 loaves, 2 fish, how he can always make more of something than what it is. Yeah. He can take just normal water and make it something more powerful. So you think about life, you think about your life. He can take an ordinary life and make it extraordinary.
Yes.
Right? And give it something use it for something totally other. I mean, all those jars too were used for purification. I mean, he's using it now for something that originally that wasn't really the plan for those jars. That's not why they were designated. This is a Jewish community. It's not why they were there. They were there for something totally different. He turns it into a source of wine. Right. So, I mean, he can take you could be scheduled to be, well, I thought I was really just this. And all of a sudden now you're a teacher at Awana, you're working in church, you're doing something way more than what you thought because of what Christ puts into you.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's something because he takes ordinary things, ordinary people, ordinary situation, and does something extraordinary with it.
Right. So I think that's extraordinary. I would also say that, if I look at a factual basis, I mean, you got to take it for what it is. For the church to have a stand against alcohol, biblically speaking, I think you would be hard pressed. What do you think?
Can you say that again?
I think you're hard pressed. I believe in don't getting drunk. I don't drink. For me personally, I don't drink. I have no intentions of drinking. I don't think you need it. I want to prove you can live your life without it. It's just, and be totally happy and totally fine. And actually I see a lot of TikToks where people are talking about how they've given up drinking and what their life is like now and how much clearer thinking, how much sharper, how much more fun they're having. So I'm a non-drinking guy all the way.
Right.
But I can't enforce my thoughts on the normal world when in fact Christ turned water into wine. So there wasn't a stand that God was making against wine, I guess is what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah, right, at that point, because the Bible does tell us to not be drunk.
Right, for sure.
With wine or whatever else, but it doesn't record anybody was drunk either at that point.
Right. No, he wouldn't before that. I mean, God's not going to tempt you to sin. He's not going to encourage you to sin. And the Bible clearly says we shouldn't be getting buzzed. People shouldn't be getting drunk, right? It's not good for you. It's not, and the Bible clearly says don't do it. Don't do it, period. That is the story.
I had a drunk lady tell me once she was going home to drink the Lord's Supper. That's what she said.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of excuses can be made for bad behavior. I mean, a lot of people can get into a lot of different things, and I think that, alcohol is one of those things that can take more and more of your life than you realize. Any sin can. I mean, this phone can become more and more addictive and take more and more a part of our lives. Anything can. Passions, sins. Yeah. Pornography could, right? Greed could. There's a lot of things that could just take more and more of you. And sin is like rust. It doesn't stop. And so when I look at somebody and you're going a direction towards drunkenness, I know for a fact it's not going to stop asking for more. Sin always wants more of you. Yeah. Right?
That's true. It's not one drink will do, or I'm just going to do it tonight and that's it.
Well, a lot of people, I remember talking to a guy one time and he said, listen, I want you to know something. He used to be a drinker and biker and all that. And he just said, everyone is going to those bars and not going home. They're sitting there at those seats. They have problems. He said there's a lot of problems there that the answer is not going to be found in a bottle ever. And so you got to remember that too. But going back to the miracle and just the situation of it, there's something to be said for Christ showing up in the ordinary of life.
Yeah.
This isn't in a synagogue.
Right.
This is not in a temple. This is at a normal social gathering of something that's just in town, and Christ is there. Christ is interested in what's happening in that place. He's present in that place. So I think about us going to, when we're at weddings or we're at funerals or we're at a bar, a picnic or an open house or whatever's going on or a birthday party. These are not places outside of God's concern. And in fact, he may have you there as his follower, as his child, to be a light in that place.
That's very true.
Right.
Like I mentioned, he's whatever is concerning us, it concerns him.
Right.
And he showed that from the very beginning, that not only obviously he worked a miracle, but it was the compassion, the sympathy he felt towards them running out, that he did something about it.
All right, so you're saying this shows the compassionate side of Christ too.
Yes.
I think it shows his respect for his mom too.
Yeah.
right? What mom wants, mom gets. You know, mom says, he's 30 years old. Mom says, just do whatever he says. So Jesus, you're going to do something here, because she knew, she had total faith in him. And one of the things too that the book of John is about is total belief. And you look at his mom already believed in him.
Yeah.
Had to have. To say, hey, they're out of wine, you know what, you see exactly where this is going. She knows exactly where this is headed, that Jesus Christ is going to miraculously produce it.
Yeah,
right. I just think that's an amazing aspect of it too.
She believed.
And she believed.
I love the way she instructed his disciples, like, whatever he tells you to do, do it. So she knew in her heart, he's getting ready to do something. Right. And because she wouldn't have said that if she just,
well,
I just throw it out there, Jesus, I'm going back to my seat.
Well, that's a good point too. So that when you're having a problem, you come to God, then you need to do whatever Jesus tells you to do, right? You know what I'm saying? You need to do whatever he tells you, and that's going to be the answer, and that's going to be the fix. Right. I had somebody come in they came in for counseling, and they were talking to me about their problems, and I said, you already had the answer before you walked in this door. You knew exactly what God was telling you to do, because you just came in here and told me. So I said, really, which was no fault. I mean, they needed to talk it through, and they needed to hear themselves say it. And for me to acknowledge what they were saying, that is, yes, that's exactly what you need to be doing. But they already knew. They didn't actually need me to tell them, because they had the answer when they walked in the door. And sometimes I see it like that. When you talk to people, they already have the answer. They just want you to confirm the answer. Yeah,
you're the confirmation. That's right.
But because God's already spoken to their heart. So when God is speaking to your heart and telling you this is the answer, this is what you need to do, then that's what you need to do.
Wow. Jesus is something, ain't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So then he does this is the first miracle, and then he gets upset because in John chapter 2 is the story of the money changers. So it's at Passover. He's in Jerusalem, and in the temple. Now this is in the temple. All the other church type experiences that the Jewish community would have was at a synagogue, where they would gather together and have their elders, right? And they would run and they would go over scripture, right? So that was in the synagogue. The temple's where they came for the sacrifices, the pilgrimage, and that's where the priests and the presence of God and the Holy of Holies and all this, right? So he goes up to the temple in Jerusalem, and in the temple he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons and the money changers sitting there. Now, they're selling things for sacrifices. So if you came in from, let's say, Rome, or you came in from Antioch or Galatia or whatever, or somewhere in Africa, Carthage, Alexandria, you're going to come in as a Jewish person, and you're going to come for this pilgrimage feast at Passover. You're not going to drive your sheep there. You're not going to drive your ox there for a sacrifice, right? So you're going to go there and you're going to buy that from them. Because you might wonder, like, why are they selling animals at the temple? So what he did was he made a whip of cords and he drove them out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. So when it comes to anger, sometimes there's a right to be angry, right? And he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned their tables. And he told those who sold the pigeons, "Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade." This is the wrong place. Not the right place to do it.
That's right.
This is not a business. And thing is too, like when they would change, because if you came in from other countries, you would have to exchange into the currency of Israel. They were ripping them off when they exchanged the currency. That's another reason he was ticked.
Right. Yeah, these
are cheats.
They're set up in the church.
Right, exactly.
In the church, yeah.
Has it ever made you think about the way that you conduct church or what you allow to go on in church?
100%.
Okay.
Yes. Because when you've been in church for a long time or involved in church, there's a certain way it becomes like, I'm not trying to say everyone is like this, but it can become like a club and an organization to you. Right. You see some of the same people. You've been around for a long time. You've developed friendships. So it's like having a club, an organization, and we lose the fact that we're an organism. Right. So we can come up with things that in our eyes, we're not really thinking that way. Like, it's probably not really right to do that.
Okay. So,
because we're just used to hanging out, and we kind of lose the voice of God,
right?
Hearing what Scripture says, and
because we got busy doing things of a secular nature.
Yes.
So I would say, well, okay, if I'm hearing what you're saying. So you don't want the church to be secular. You don't want it to become just a place of business.
Right.
You don't want it to become like, it can never be, let's say, Eagleville Bible Church Incorporated. I've always said that all along. We're never about the organization.
Right.
We're always about the people who come, and God's working with the people who come. It's not about the organization. But you think of churches that make it about carnivals, bazaars, food trucks, blackjack tables, bingo.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And what in the world are you doing? Because God's house is going to be, he said in another passage, is going to be a house of prayer. We're not to turn God's house into a casino.
Right.
Church, you listening to that? We're not. And this is why, I'm not allowed people to sell raffle tickets here. At least not advertised, you know what I'm saying, what they do to their friends or whatever, but we're not having tables to sell, hey, we're selling raffle tickets.
Right.
Now, if there's a ticket for a ministry, like an outreach that you have to get, like if we're doing a seminar, okay, well, it's about a seminar, that's different. And we're not making money off those things. Those are things where we're just recouping some costs and getting you that buy-in. Like that would happen occasionally. But yeah, we're not, because this house is not going to be turned into a business place. We've never allowed people to use it for, hey, can I use the church for, I was going to have a Mary Kay party, or no. This is not nobody's personal business. Somebody wants to run a Zumba class. I told them, you will not make money. If you want to do a free class, sure. But you are not going to turn this building into your personal thing to make money off of it. That's rare. I mean, it'd be rare that a request would even come in like that. But yeah, we don't allow it to be. Why? Look at this passage right here, right?
Yes.
Those are my applications.
Yeah.
But I also think the secularization of the church. I think some churches, honestly, Steve, have become more of a club than anything else. I really do. And there was a great story about a lot of the big life-saving organizations in the old days that would have the lifeboats and things that would save people who were having wrecks and off the shores became clubs. They totally lost the mission. They totally lost the mission of they were there to save lives.
Yeah.
And they became about them. They became about being comfortable. I think sometimes churches are no different than a Ruritan and nothing wrong with the Ruritan, nothing wrong with the Lions Club, nothing wrong with Kiwanis, if I said it right, but it's not it's not the role of the church. The role of the church is to communicate the truth. The role of the church is to be an ambassador for God. That's the role of the church, is not just to run a dinner. It's not just to, right?
Correct.
It's not just to do these things. So we have to be careful. And so he was mad at them about that. And so sometimes I do wonder what he would think about a church. But then at the end, he says, now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many believed in his name when they saw the signs that he was doing. But Jesus, on his part, did not entrust himself to them, because he knew all people, and he needed no one to bear witness about man, for he himself knew what was in man. What about that?
He's like that today. He knows.
You know what's inside man.
He knows.
How do you feel? You're a pastor. How much trust do you put in people not to let you down, or to?
Well, people are. We all are human, so we're subject to some human nature, which sometimes is even sinful. The closer we are to Jesus, and the more we depend on him, the less likely we are to fail.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
I mean, I do trust people. I trust my staff. I trust, I got Mark in here producing. He's a great friend. I trust him. And there are plenty of people that absolutely I do trust them. But I also understand you can't count on them all. You got to know what's in the heart of man. And sometimes when you put stuff up, like if you want to get political, and Mark and I just had this conversation ahead of the show, when politics enters into a conversation, whether it's a prayer meeting, it's from the pulpit, it's with your friends, you need to understand the heart of man. Mm-hmm. And you can't always entrust people to give your opinion to them and think that they're not going to slam you with it.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Right.
So I kind of appreciate the fact that he said that he did not entrust himself to them because he knew all people. Mm-hmm. And he knew what they were going to be about. He didn't need to bear witness about man. He himself knew what was in man. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we behave ourselves like we don't know what's in man.
Yeah.
Like we don't know. Like you don't understand, you're flirting around with some other girl. It's going to make your wife jealous. You don't know come on. You don't know what's in man. You start getting, like I said, getting all these controversial topics. You don't know what's in man. Mm-hmm. You as a business are going to get on the side of any, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, or chime in on any of these political hot topic subjects. You don't know what's in man. You don't know that's going to cause controversy.
Right.
Right?
Right. That's right.
Your take. I'm going to give you what is your take when you read it?
I agree with you. You have to, when we consider what's in the heart of man, we would be more careful in how we present ourselves in those areas.
Right.
Because we all have opinions and all that other stuff, but I don't ever want to come off as being offensive. And, I don't try to be offensive. I want to be truthful.
Right.
Or sometimes you just have to be quiet.
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes that's the best way.
And just don't say, sometimes I think people need to be confronted, but you still have to remember people are people, and they're going to get a bee in their bonnet if you're not careful. And so sometimes it's better to be reserved in your judgment and how much you entrust of yourself to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's where Christ is right now. He's not entrusting them with all the information about him of who all he is, right? All what his mission is per se. He's not saying things about all of it. There are times he would speak in parables. He would say, it's not my time yet.
Right.
He would run. They wanted to force him to be a king. That's not why I came. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of him knowing what's in man too, that they would have wanted to start fight with Rome right then and there.
Right.
That's not what his mission, his purpose was, but he knew where things were headed. And I think that we need to be smart enough to know when we speak up or we say something, exactly where it's headed.
That's right. And we need to have that discernment that comes from him.
Right.
And the wisdom of what to say, when to say, and how, and to whom. Right.
Well, there's a lot of practical information here, Steve. So again, we've already covered John 1, John 2. And one thing I love about the Bible is not just for then. There's a lot of lessons for today, whether who you entrust. Don't make churches a business. Church is about God's work, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't want to make it a business. You look at Christ, he's there in everyday life. We're also involved in everyday life. That's okay. These are all normal things, you know what I'm saying, for us. So a lot of practical lessons. So when you read the Bible, read it with that practical. Ask, what's the big deal? What should I be learning from this? The so what of it, meaning learn, apply it to your life, and live and grow through it. But thanks for being here, man.
Thank you.
I really super appreciate it. Have an awesome and a blessed week.